You are listening to Been There, Done That. We present some of the smartest people connected to the business of coffee. People who've succeeded in the tough grind of hospitality by staying ahead of the rest. So join us as we explore the secrets to their success and help you accelerate your business. This show is brought to you by the Coffee Commune, where the coffee community comes to collaborate. Enjoy the show.
You ready to go? Hi, this is Phil Di Bella, and you're listening to another episode of Been There, Done That, where we bring people with amazing experience to the microphone to share their stories. And in this series, we're talking all about sharing stories from great, young, successful people in the hospitality industry. And today I've got Todd Biggs with me from L'Espresso. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute honour. I love seeing young people, especially yourself, multiple sites. We'll get into that in a minute. But your background, over 20 years, I mean, you must have started in the industry when you were bloody 10, mate, but over 20 years of experience in the hospitality industry. You've held key management roles with establishments like McDonald's and GYG back in McDonald's day when they were actually training people properly, no doubt. Your leadership extended to previous hotels like the Ritz Carlton and the Carlisle, where you honed your skills in upscaling hospitality management. You also spent 5 years abroad in Toronto, Canada, gaining international experience across various roles. And in November 2021, correct, in the middle of COVID, November 2021, you purchased 3 cafes and through strategic management and customer-focused initiatives, successfully grew their revenue by 33% in just 3 years. And mate, that's why we wanted to bring you to the show. The title of it is Been There, Done That. And you, my friend, have done something that most people haven't, and probably only about 5% people did, is grow a business in the most difficult time hospitality's ever seen. And you grew it by 33% in the middle of COVID. So that's a real celebration to you, your ethos, your work ethic, your strategy, and these are the things that we want to unpack and celebrate on the show. Are you up for it?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your background in your own words. I mean, I've given you the bio. It's a pretty extensive bio. How old are you to start with?
Yeah, thank you. I'm 36. So,
there you go. So 16 you started, obviously.
13.
13,
yeah.
Right? Okay.
Started at my parents' restaurant, actually, and Mum changed my birthday in the computer system so I could actually get in a little bit earlier. So, up on 23 years in the industry now. About 10 years, did the 5-star hotel thing overseas, and then, everything from fast food through to, Ritz Carlton.
And tell me, what was your favorite, before you started your own business, what was your favorite and why? What did you love? What shines in the memory of you?
Yeah, almost had 2 careers, but as you spoke to, being part of McDonald's, I was kind of fast-tracked through that management program, and I learned more in 2 years there than I did in 10 years in hotels, and then on the flip side, the experience working in some 5-star hotels, being quite young, getting to work with some managers that had 30, 40, 50 years experience, certainly a lot to take away from those as well.
So talk me through let's unpack the McDonald's, because my nieces are now in their 30s, similar age to you. They're both lawyers, and they kickstarted at 14 at McDonald's, and then they came to work for me at age 16 at Di Bella Coffee. Yep. And I was just in awe of the training. Yep. I was in awe of the processes, the systems, the programs that they did. And you talk to McDonald's owners these days, and that's gone all out the window for many reasons. Like, they've still got systems, the processes and the rest of it, but you don't have that same feeder with the 14 and 15-year-olds. What was it like to be, that young in an establishment like McDonald's, and what should they, be really bringing back to what they did back then that they don't do now?
Yeah, I guess I have some bias. My parents were McDonald's franchisees, so that's how I got into that business, and fast-tracked through and did go down that road for a while as a career, but ultimately decided it wasn't for me. No one's been doing it longer. No one's been in business longer. It's a 70, 80-year-old old business at this point. So as you spoke to, the systems, the trainings, the resources, when you come in on day one, there's, a pathway through to restaurant management and beyond. And I think that's, what separates them from a lot of everyone else, really.
So they start with the outcome in mind, right?
Yeah.
Every person that starts with them is trained as if they're going to become one day a restaurant manager.
That's right. Yeah. You walk in and there's a poster that tells you how to get there. And that's sometimes, the biggest challenge or opportunity is not knowing that there's a pathway. But with them, it's a long path. It usually takes at least a few years. But now you've got McDonald's restaurant managers in their early 20s running, $5-10 million businesses.
Yeah, it's a key takeaway for the listeners, right? Is that when somebody's starting with you, whether it's a dishy or whether they're starting, pouring coffees or whatever they're doing, is to actually start with the outcome in mind of what they could one day be. Even if they don't choose to get there, they're going to learn all the skills that it needs, right?
Yeah, we're in an industry where, I think 90% of the people in the workforce, for them, it's the job before the job that they really want. Looking at ways to find ways we can increase that and show off hospitality as a really valuable career is key. Really hard in small business, but yeah, for a company like McDonald's, I guess there's a lot of opportunities.
But again, a lot to learn from, my nieces taught me a lot when they came over here from McDonald's and I gave them free rein and said, well, hey, take the good stuff we're doing and then show us what we could do better based on what you've learned. Well, fast forward now, your parents are out of the business or they still own? But when did they get out?
2016, 17.
Okay. Did they see a change in that time from the early days to then with the systems and processes?
For systems process, I think everything it just became more and more complicated. Adding different menu parts, day parts, drive-throughs, kiosks. As the technology just kept evolving, there was just more and more
stuff to do
to manage. Yeah, and more to manage for. But their sales continued to grow up until probably very, very recently they might have curved off a little bit. But look at a drive-through that's doing 200 to 300K a week. So
yeah, crazy, isn't it? So talk us through the hotel part because obviously very different again, a lot more executive style, professional style. What were the standouts and key learnings when you were doing that stint?
Yeah, I think the standouts for a hotel is again it's very tall. They're very tall organizations. So if you come in at an entry level, there might be 10 people between you and the hotel manager. So, very little exposure to the executives. Takes a lot longer to work your way through that career and get to the top is what I learned. It's all about finding, an amazing manager or mentor that's willing to kind of invest in you because that can be tricky. But with hotels, there's also a lot of opportunity to jump around between, different properties, competitors and around the world, which is what attracted me to that industry. You can sometimes or often move up the chain quicker, if you're prepared to relocate. The professionalism and the communication and dealing with an older customer clientele as well as, management. You grow up fast.
So we take the experience from McDonald's, we take the experience obviously from your Ritz Carlton and your Carlisles and all the rest of it. We fast forward to 2021. Time for you. So what was that first thing going through your head when you said, I'm going to buy a business? I'm going to buy 3 businesses all at once. What was going through your head? What was the motivator?
Yeah, I think I got to a point in my career where I felt like I'd taken on some new jobs and I started to realize that I thought I knew as much as my manager or the person maybe running the business and sort of had the confidence to go out on my own. So I decided to buy 3 cafes on the same day, which I wouldn't recommend. And they're 100 kilometres apart. Innately some challenges.
Well, you certainly went out there with a bang, right?
Yeah, I just dove straight in the deep end. Then the week that the contract went through on that business, the vaccine mandate came out. So, there was some complexities there to manage. And then, 2 months later, we were into Omicron and different variants and those kinds of things. So, the first 3, 4, 5 months were pretty tough. But I knew coming out of that, things would start to turn around for us.
So let's unpack that, right? Let's unpack 3. Not only do you go and look at buying 1 business, you look at buying 3, right? What were the key learnings out of that? So if you could park the fact that it was a difficult time with COVID and the rest of it, just, for the listeners and the takeaway there, what was the 3 key learnings that you had, that if you had the time again that you would do differently?
I might not buy 3 on the same day. I did initially.
So space out the purchase?
Yeah, it's you obviously just can't. I think when you come into a new business or you start a new business, you're going to have the greatest impact by working closely with the team that is there, whether it's existing or a new team. And when you can't be in 2 places or 3 places at once, it just takes longer and longer for you to kind of, have the effect that you want to or make the changes that you want to or the improvements. That was certainly a takeaway. Yep. I was fortunate and then I had, my dad had a bit of experience in the industry, so he was kind of able to help me out at one of the locations. And
so you leaned on your resources, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but definitely a key takeaway, next time you would stage the settlements, because they obviously were all one brand.
Yeah, I went through
and so you could stage that separately strategically for settle, say, a month apart,
right.
And the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
But hindsight's always a good thing because it comes later, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Next takeaway is that I took over from 3 owner-operators. So it was a family business in which 3 of the family worked in the business. So they were, again, able to hold a higher standard, in 2 places at once. So as quickly as possible, tried to implement systems, processes, routines, and ultimately some technology where I could manage the business, through my phone, because I couldn't be everywhere.
Fantastic. Yeah. So talk to me about energy, because one thing I talk a lot about now is, if we fast forward now, and a lot of it's fatigue, rightly so, right? And we'll talk about that with yourself, but people have had to work harder than they've ever had to. Yep. They've had more emotional stress than they've ever had to. So it's all compounding, right? Mm-hmm. But I really say that now the key ingredients when we look at now and in the future is energy and enthusiasm.
Yep.
At the time you obviously had a lot of energy and very enthusiastic. Would you agree with that? The importance of that ingredient would have got you through?
Yeah, I think for owners and for managers, it's arguably the most valuable and important thing that you can bring to a business. I think I probably worked 350 out of the first 365 days that I took on the business. It's just that they're 3 7-day businesses. That was also something in hindsight I probably should have assessed maybe a little better. But the hardest thing is to come in to work every day and be a positive influence on others and not let the girlfriends or the pets, or if you're having a bad day outside of work or you don't feel good, not letting your team see that, because it has just such a great impact.
And it's a good point, because at the same time, you've got COVID going on with all the negative publicity, all the negativity, and people were scared, so rightly so. They didn't know what was going on, especially in 2021. Obviously, 2022, 23, we got a bit smarter and better. Well, some people did, some others didn't. But, it's really admirable. And one thing I really want to take away from that and ask you about is gratefulness. Yeah. Have you ever paused and stopped in the past and gone, hey, look at what I did? Because it is a massive achievement, and it's a real celebration to you as a character, and it says a lot about you. And listeners can no doubt see the caliber of who you are without even having met you, through your decision making process, the way you've handled it, and the way you've moved on. But have you stopped, paused, and made sure that you reflect and be grateful for what you achieved?
Yeah, and first and foremost, I recognise that and appreciate that, and pass on gratitude to the people that have been with me for a long time, and I've got a couple of amazing managers, and let them know that what we have done together, when you look at the averages across the industry, and exceeding that,
So you celebrate your team, because I know every time I've met with you, you talk very highly about your team, and you celebrate them, and the business success is actually their success. So that's something that you obviously always share with me. And obviously you share that with them.
When I took over the business, we had about 35 staff, and now we're in the 50s. So, obviously the business has grown by 30%. We had to grow the team by 30%. But there's been a couple of quiet moments at home when I can look back and say, hey, we got through that, and when the growth at times, it's a challenge to manage growth. It's also a challenge to manage things in the hard times. It's a much better problem to have, managing growth.
What do you think the key was to keep your team engaged at a difficult time? What was the key to keep them engaged, keep them energetic and enthusiastic?
Yeah, I think just focusing on consistency, and we have an older demographic, a vulnerable demographic. So, they were very conscious of the COVID and, over the first 6 months, and the dangers that those posed. But for them, it was the social interaction that was, most important to them, and coming out. So, focusing on the customer, and just, delivering on consistency when looking around at some of our competitors, and they had to close on weekends and those kinds of things because, they couldn't staff their business, or things were just too tough. So, I guess we operate within a department store, so we also had that support as well.
Yeah, so be amiss to me. I mean, to the listeners, sorry, excuse my ignorance. I know Todd's story very well, but talk us through what L'Espresso is for the audience that don't know. Right. And again, my apologies because I know the business model. I know you. We've caught up many times, and you're part of the Commune. Talk to the listeners that would know. Tell us about L'Espresso and the 3 sites where they are, what they do, and your audience, because obviously it'd be keen for them to put the context behind it.
Sure. So we operate within Myer department stores at Chermside, North Lakes and Maroochydore. The Maroochydore business has been there since 2001. And then the owner was approached to take over, I think, 2 Gloria Jeans sites around 2010 in Brisbane. So, where we differentiate ourselves from our competitors is that we have a full commercial kitchen within Myers, which many people wouldn't realise. So we're able to prepare, about 80% of our food fresh on site daily. As opposed to most shopping centre kitchens, cafes, where they need to source their food from outside. So that kind of gives us a point of difference. But we have retail hours, which is a nice thing for our staff. It's 8 to 4 workday, which is pretty unheard of in the hospitality industry. Yeah, very, very good.
And type of clientele? You said older demographic?
That's right, yeah, very much older demographic, social groups and those sorts of things. We have more regular customers than shoppers from Myer. Christmas is a different story. You've got a lot of people coming through school holidays. We see a few more families, but Monday to Friday, it's very reminiscent of RSL or something like that, I suppose.
Well, and again, I just love the story, because not only do you go and and let's break this down, not only do you go and buy 3 businesses that settle all on the same day, you do that on November 2021 in the middle of COVID. You do it as a young person. Yeah, okay, you've had your parents obviously, support in terms to help you manage, and your upbringing's been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But then you go and do it in a Myer centre where retail trade's down and a lot of the Myers have been suffering. Yep. And you've been able to grow the business by 33% in 3 years. You just got to stop and sometimes pinch yourself and go, wow, right? And your story, and again, the purpose of this podcast is to tell stories like yours so that people out there get inspired. Because there's a lot of reasons not to be inspired by hospitality, and I want to ask you that in a way. That's where I'm heading to with this. Yeah. There's a lot of reasons today not to be inspired for hospitality. There's a lot of reasons why should I go into hospitality, or, but taking all that, and so, you must laugh when somebody says, oh, it's tough out there, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term, right? Because people don't know what they don't know. What would your advice be to somebody that's sitting there going, why would I want to do this? Why should I do this? From somebody who's been through the absolute, your odds are stacked against you and you've come out shining. Again, 33% growth over 3 years. What would your advice be to somebody that's questioning whether hospitality has a future or whether they should get into it?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent my whole life in the industry, love the industry, and, even if I don't continue to, be an owner-operator into the future, I think I'll always work with the industry in some capacity. You really got to have a passion for it. That you won't get around that. It is not a 9-to-5 job. It is not a 24/7 job, but it's 7 days a week, whether you're open or not. You always have to be thinking, planning, and kind of staying, with your competitors and hopefully ahead of them. But sorry, question?
Yeah, no, that's it. So tell us, why should somebody look at getting into hospitality? Why, what is the driver? What are the type of things that people should be thinking about if they're questioning whether there's a future for it or if they should be in hospitality?
Yeah, whether they're questioning it, my advice was obviously if you have experience, you probably have a good understanding of what you're going to get yourself into. If you don't, go out and get experience before you take on this challenge or this business. It's very complicated. You have to deal with 50 other plus suppliers and businesses just to run your business. There's different options out there. Obviously, franchises, you get a great level of support, but you're certainly paying for it. But if you're passionate about food, passionate about people, you love the
there's the key, right? Passionate about food, passionate about people.
If you love the idea of leading a team, that's certainly.
Yeah. And one thing I say about hospitality is there's always going to be a need for it.
Yep.
The way that people will interact with hospitality will change, whether it's fast food, specialised restaurants, takeout, it's all hospitality, right? Whether it's fine dining, it's all hospitality, but there's always going to be a need for people to engage with hospitality in one way, shape or form. The key is, what are you passionate about? Where's the problems? And what problem are you going to solve that no one else solves? Or how are you going to solve the problem better than your competitor, right? Which is a key factor of any business and success. Tell us, let's go back to the people side of things, right? So now you've got manager in each store.
Yep.
And how do you reward them for achieving their goals and obviously leading the team towards your vision?
Yep. I've got a manager that's kind of new to the business, but I've had two that have been with me for over 2 years. So we do sort of like a strategic offsite planning day twice a year, a kind of end of season thing, and then we'll go out and have a look at the next 6 months, take a look at results, and then look ahead at what we can do differently, changes that we can make in the business, and set targets. They all have quarterly targets that they work towards, and they're on a profit sharing arrangement as well. A lot of planning, a lot of strategy, right? Yeah.
It's not just open your doors, and that's what I say to a lot of operators these days. You can't just open your doors and expect to be turning trade.
That's right.
You've got to work a lot harder, right? I'm not sure if you're across the stats, but 2019, there was 19,500 cafes in Australia.
Yep.
At 2023, there was 26,500 cafes. Now, and that's why they say the prediction of 1 in 12 will close. You've defied those odds, and why? Well, one, you've gone into something from, I've been in this industry 36 years, so it's easier for me to break it down. You went in prepared.
Yeah.
Your foundations are strong. You had a good network around you, and you've got leadership skills, and you're passionate, determined, driven, and hardworking. And if you've got those key ingredients, then, it doesn't mean you're always going to be a success. Yeah. But I tell you what, your odds are going to be stacked in your favour rather than against you.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, key for any listener. Obviously listening to Todd and his story is, how do you go from McDonald's to hotel management to then owning 3 venues all on the same day to growing in the toughest time? They're the ingredients and the skills and that you obviously possess. So tell me, what's next?
What's next? Christmas. So we're heads down now. Our business trade picks up about 30 to 40%, over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So we're kind of locked down and in recruitment mode for that. But on the side, I've been working on another project to help people buy, run, scale, and sell hospitality businesses.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So it's called Knowa. Hey, do you know a good accountant, a bookkeeper, bakery? Coming out of a franchise system where you have an office of hundreds of people that are working full time on solutions for you and help you solve all these problems and find the industry partners that you need to run your business, and then opening some cafes and realizing that you've got to figure it all out on your own, and that you can spend hours sorting through Google and trying to find the business that you need. But they can get messy, and they all tell you that they're the latest and the greatest, and they're the cheapest and everything else. So long thought about some resource or platform. Wouldn't it be great if you could take an app or jump onto a website and find all of the businesses working in your area that either roast coffee or bookkeepers that specialize in working with cafes and restaurants, and so on. So
great. And when does that launch?
Yeah, we're live online at the moment. We've had a soft launch last month. It was part of an accelerated program at the University of Queensland, which is fantastic, and you were a part of as well. We're onboarding kind of our founding businesses and members right now. Yeah,
great. We wish you best of luck, and obviously listeners will be able to find out more about that. Tell us, what do you see key problems in the hospitality industry in the future? Let's use the crystal ball.
Key problems? I think it is going to come, the experience of operators. I think COVID, while hospitality will be there forever, certainly COVID highlighted, maybe the fragility of certain types of businesses. As you spoke to, a lot of people opening venues, but there's some hesitation, around what the future looks like. But it's all going to come back to execution, preparation, and planning, and leveraging
and outperforming competition, right?
Yeah, leveraging technology and looking at what your competitors do. To me, I just can't. my biggest takeaway from working like at companies like McDonald's is consistency and execution. If you can do that across multiple sites, if you can do that day in, day out, if everything goes out looking the same, speed is a big factor as well.
Yeah.
So those
are some good takeaways. And what do you do to research your customers? How do you anticipate the needs of your customers, right? Because you're obviously across 3 sites doing a lot of transactions.
Yep.
How do you guys, when it comes to menu design and all that sort of stuff, how do you gather that data to anticipate the need?
Yeah, I obviously, I have a point of sale system, and I'm reviewing, on a monthly or quarterly basis, what's selling and what's not. A big part of my strategy when I took over the business was simplification. The menu read like a Bible.
Okay, too big, yeah.
And it's giving customers all the choice. So over the past couple of years, we've slimmed down a lot, which has helped us increase capacity tremendously. So
great point.
We do 80% of our business between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. every day.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to grow the day parts, when we open and when we close. So just focusing down on that and trying to serve as many customers as possible.
Yeah, great strategy, right? And how important it is to grab that data and analyze it and then build strategy around it. And I say that a lot to people is, make sure you've got the tools around you. Tools are technology, obviously, point of sales, staff that talk to customers, yourself talking to customers, gather that data and then analyze it and then build the strategy around it. And you've articulated that very well.
And I review pricing quarterly. I'll always, I can walk around the shops and visit 10 of my competitors in an hour, which is a luxury that I have. But look at what they're doing and, whether we can move pricing. I never want to be the cheapest, but I want to be kind of in line with, where my competitors are. Yeah,
so let's talk a bit about pricing because, figures have just come out. Disposable income in Australia, we're actually, unfortunately leading the world at the wrong end. Yeah. We've got the lowest growth in disposable income. We've actually got a decline in disposable income per capita, which means the amount of money that you have left over after you pay all your commitments at home. What have you taken that into effect when you're doing your menu design and obviously your product design and your pricing in the disposable income?
Yeah, obviously, you try your very best not to pass, increasing costs and those things like that onto the customer. But when you get an email and that your milk's going up 20% and your bread's going up 15% and everything else, sometimes you have no other option. We're not trying to. I'm fortunate in that I'm not trying to double my margins or anything like that. Yeah. I'm just trying to maintain, what we've been doing over the past couple of years. I can't take total credit for the business success in relation to having a customer demographic that has benefited from some of the economic changes over the past couple of years. Obviously. But of course, you made the right decision and you still follow the same template, right? Yep.
You're still talking to your customers, you're researching. Yep. Like you said, the strategy, you're not the cheapest, but you're not the most expensive. Yep. How do you communicate that with the customers? Is it because of the demographic, is it a different form of communication, different form of marketing, which is communication? How do you guys engage with your customer base? Yeah, obviously, I have a relationship with our regular customers and we'll talk to them. I'm in a way fortunate that they go home and watch the nightly news every day. So they're in that demographic. So when, they see persons like yourself or news in the industry of the rising costs of coffee and all these other commodities, and then they come back for their coffee and sandwich the next week and it's gone up by 10 or 20 cents. They understand it.
Yeah. My strategy has been to make very small incremental price increases throughout the year, as opposed to like doing a big jump on July 1st every year and bumping things up.
Key takeaway for your listeners, and that's something my colleagues didn't do before COVID. The margins are great and they absorbed it, and now they're in a position where most owners have absorbed costs for 25% of all the costs that have gone up, they've absorbed. Now they're in a position they can't absorb it anymore. But a really, really good point Todd just made there. It's better to be doing small incremental increases, say 3 or 4 times a year, rather than one big hit at once a year, because everything does go up. And to me, the key is you've got to be able to communicate it. I always say you can't be greedy, right? Everyone's got to eat, but you can't choke. You put too much food in your mouth, you choke, but you can't starve yourself either or starve your team. And education is a big piece. As you know, we spend a lot of time here at the Coffee Coffee Commune, and we've been on all sorts of media over the last 8 weeks, and we'll continue to do that, talking about awareness and what's happening, because we've got to find the right happy medium where the pricing meets the customer disposable income, but the pricing also means that the operators aren't going backwards, because that doesn't benefit anybody.
Sure.
But really good takeaway there. Better off a little bit often to put your prices up in line, but communicate that with your customers and let them know that your intent is not to gouge them. Talk us through. What do you see? Who's one of your idols out there? Who's doing something really well in multiple site ownership or cafe industry or any hospitality industry? Who's doing something really, really well that you really like, following, or has done in the past that you keep across?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I go back to my previous experience. I've been very fortunate to work for some of the, the biggest companies in the world. And, while some of them, it's very hard to manage culture on a scale like that. I'm very fortunate, and I still have relationships with people that work for those businesses as well, so I can pick their brains. People that are running several McDonald's, businesses, and their strategies and what they're doing. But it's a lot of the things that maybe you might not think about first, but how are you managing teams? What are you doing? Offsite planning days. How can you really motivate the people at your top of the business?
Yeah,
because those are the ones that are working with your frontline staff day to day. I'm not doing that as much anymore.
Yeah.
That's the most important kind of part of my role. I look to those, and then. Yeah, very fortunate in that there's a great amount, of resources out there online and podcasts, and hospitality professionals. Even it's Danny Myer and these kinds of guys.
There's plenty of people. Great.
You can look right to the top, and there's lessons to be learned.
Yeah, but remember, those at the top started somewhere, and I always say to people,
they start with one. Yeah,
that's exactly. Well, people look at my story, and I say I started washing dishes at 14.
Yeah,
and no 20-story building goes to level 20. Mm-hmm. It's got to start with foundations, right? Danny Myer is a perfect example for those that haven't read the book or seen the the Netflix the Disney series. Get in and have a look at what these guys have done. It all starts with solid foundations. You've done the same thing. Your foundations started, obviously, being born into a family that's quite entrepreneurial in hospitality, but your foundation started at McDonald's. You went on to the hotels and set you up to do what you do. And every great story starts with solid foundations, and that's a key for listeners to really understand.
You got to seek it out. It's we're in a time like never before, where the internet is an endless ocean, and any resource that you want can be found out there, and most of them are free.
Yeah. You got to be hungry, right?
Yeah.
Tell me, what else do you want to share? Free reign. Tell us what would you like to share? You've got listeners listening to this. We get thousands of listeners that listen to the Been There, Done That podcast. They're for different reasons. We're celebrating people that have been there and done that in this series, and great success stories like yourself. Yeah. What do you want to tell the listeners?
Yeah, I think everybody can have success in hospitality, or anybody can have success in hospitality. You've got to be prepared to do the work and sometimes outwork others. It's not you can't sit up in some office somewhere and run your businesses. You need to be hands-on. You need to be in there with your people on the front lines, leading by example. But you can have success. I've never worked as a chef. That's a component that is, I guess, another challenge to manage. But it's certainly from an operations perspective, there is a science to it, and if you follow kind of the recipe, you can be successful. Yeah,
well said. And the recipe, I normally say, and the science is, you've got to solve problems better than your competition. You've got to be more relevant than your competition. And once you nail those two, you've got to tell a better story than your competition, which is all about marketing. And if you do those three things, you normally end up with great results. Like yours is testament to that, 33% growth in 3 years. So, Todd, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Congratulations on your success. Can't wait to see what happens next. No doubt some really, really good stuff. I can see your eyes. There's plenty going on in that head of yours in a positive way, which is good. And I thank you for being on the show and sharing your story. Anything else closing remarks you'd like to add?
No, thank you so much for the opportunity, and really appreciate what you're doing for the industry and being a resource for myself and others. So.
No, awesome. You're very welcome, and we love what we do and impact. And as people say, when I pass away, away and others people pass away will be long forgotten, but hopefully the impact's not. And we will leave a bit of a legacy behind and move toward being better tomorrow than today. So thanks again, Todd. Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Todd Biggs from L'Espresso, who went from McDonald's to hotel management to owning 3 stores in 2021 that have grown in over 33% in a tough time being COVID, and is still kicking some big goals. He shared his wisdom with us. He's certainly been there and done that, like all the guests do and have been. Until next time, this is Phil Di Bella, and you go be the best you can be. That's a wrap for today. Keep listening for more episodes of Been There and Done That. The Coffee Commune is here to help accelerate your potential. We want you to be better tomorrow than today. Until next time, you've been listening to Phil Di Bella. I'm the founder and managing director of the Coffee Commune, a place where the coffee community comes to collaborate.